All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. I am your host, Patrick Moran. Thank you very, very much as always. We're locking in today, whether you're listening to this, wherever your audio podcasts find you, whatever platform they may be, whether you're checking us out on the video side on YouTube. By the way, this channel continues to grow. If you have not yet subscribed on the video side, please make sure you do. Like, subscribe, comment. It really helps us continue to grow this channel. I say it all the time. The audio side is the only place where you're going to be guaranteed to get every single episode in full. But even if you are subscribed on the audio side, you should be on the video side as well. We do some live streams. If you don't want to wait till the next day to listen to the episode, a lot of these get put up the night before. We're going to start in 2024 doing some YouTube exclusive videos here and there. So definitely make sure you're subscribed to both if you're not. Again, thank you very much. Appreciate you all. It's funny. This is technically the third episode already of 2024. Well, I ain't going to lie to y'all, man. This is literally the first episode this year being 2024, of course, where I actually am feeling it. Feeling pretty good. Taped on New Year's Eve immediately after the game. We taped live post-game reaction that only went for about half hour or so, which, by the way, this episode plans to be the same, not going to be a long episode. But anyway, threw that together quickly, immediately after the Bills game. Wanted to get that up because I had a bunch of friends and family coming over for New Year's Eve. The gathering was at our house this year, so I wanted to get that taken care of. But that dropped on the first of the year, so technically that was the first episode of the year. And then Monday night, we taped on New Year's Day night, which dropped January 2nd. Anyway, my man Tone Pucks came here, joined me in studio. And if you watch that show, if you listen to that show, I it wasn't there. I wasn't there. Tone was fine. I just I tied one on. I tied one on New Year's Eve. I rang in the year a little bit harder maybe than I should have, and certainly paid the price all day and into the night on Monday. In fact, I've been doing these episodes for a long, long time now, closing in on 6 years, by the way. I think February 19th is going to be our 6-year anniversary of Talking Buffalo. And we've been doing videos regularly now for the past couple of years. But I got to tell you, man, that was one of the few times I can remember, maybe the only time actually I can remember, where I had at some point during that episode a full-on coughing attack. Tried to talk, tried to hit the mute button, just couldn't get through it. If you saw it on the video side, the audio side, you might not have known, because I think I was able to cut out some of the coffee. But on the video side, if you're watching it live, especially, obviously, I was literally having a coughing attack. It was a rough start to 2024 for your boy Pat Moran here, but feel much better today. And what we're going to do, I've been doing these for most Wednesday episodes throughout the Buffalo Bills season, is I watch the all-22 film, I sift through all the PFF grades, and I kind of want to develop my biggest thoughts and takeaways based on the film, based on watching the game again, based on looking at the grades that PFF provides afterwards, and just offering my biggest takeaways from this game. Not necessarily going to do these in order of importance. I just kind of wrote some notes down. I'll share them with you today. Going to say the same thing, the same spiel that I say every time I do these type of episodes, because when you say I watched the film, you might get the impression, especially if you haven't, been watching the show or listening to the show often, that I'm going to break down some film analytically and be able to talk about, zone things and gap things and stuff like that people like Eric Turner and Anthony Prohaska from Cover One, or Joe Marino from Locked On Bills, and some of these other film people out there that they're so good at. Not me. That's not what I'm talking about here. These, watching the film, going through the grades, and again, I say this all the time, it either strengthens the opinion that I had watching the game live in real time with the naked eye, or in some cases, I might have thought I had an opinion about something, and then I go back and watch the film and be like, you know what? I wasn't as impressed with this player or this thing that I thought it was. Or conversely, I'm more impressed. I thought this guy sucked. And it turns out He didn't. This wasn't his fault. This guy I gave credit to in real time, but in reality, it was this person who made the play. So it either kind of strengthens or loosens my opinions and my takeaways. And that's what I'm doing with this episode. And again, I'm just going to run down a handful of things that I took away most from this game on Sunday. A Buffalo Bills close victory, a lot closer than any of us expected. And obviously, if you're a Bills fan anyway, anyone wanted to see a 6-point victory over the New England Patriots, especially considering the fact that the defense generated 4 turnovers in the first half, including a pick 6 by Rasul Douglas. Still ended up being a really tight game. The offense, wonky, and we'll get into a couple specifics here in just a second. Kind of been the case a lot this season with the Bills offense, just a really hot and cold unit, and that certainly continued on Sunday. As for the shows for the remainder of this week, tomorrow, as usual, I'm going to have my boy Anthony Marino from Buffalo Rumblings on. We're going to get into a much more fuller Buffalo Bills versus Miami Dolphins game 272 of the NFL season, which, of course, is the final regular season game of the year. Sunday night primetime. We'll break that game down more specifically. We'll spend some time talking about the Miami Dolphins, specifically some keys to the matchup that we both think critical for the Bills, and then ultimately our predictions for the game. That's what we've been doing most Thursdays for this season. Then on Friday, not 100% committed to this yet because I might end up having a guess, but probably going to do a Fan Friday. And this Friday specifically is just not any, at least to me, it's not just any normal episode of Talking Buffalo. This Friday is actually episode number 700 of this podcast. Again, started all the way back once a week in February of 2018. Then I went to twice a week, and we kind of were flirting between 2 and 3 times a week. And then since September of this past year, 2023, I committed to doing a full-time every weekday podcast. So anyway, episode 700 coming up, and it's just crazy to me because I remember over the summer, I did a live show at Imperial Pizza. By the way, shout out Imperial Pizza, sponsor, of course, of this podcast. Now with a second location, 1665 Main Street, near Canisius College, in addition, of course, to their staple main location at 1035 Abbott Road. But anyway, I was at Imperial Pizza over the summer with John Fina and Joe Miller from Buffalo Rumblings as well. And I remember kind of celebrating episode 600 and having John on. It kind of feels like a blink of an eye. And here we are just 2 days away from episode number 700. So that's just wild to me. But anyway, I'll talk about maybe on Friday, go through some of the highlights over the past year or so, some podcasting information for you all. And then I will, of course, answer questions and comments that you guys and girls leave for me that I've been doing on some of these Fan Fridays, which are a lot of fun. And of course, we're going to start with the new year. I talked about this a little bit near the end of last year. Start doing more live shows, not just at Imperial Pizza too, by the way. I mean, it's always going to be like my home base now for the live shows, but we will start hitting up some other bars and restaurants. And I will start having a lot more guests on, not only for the live shows in person, but also here when we do these during, like via StreamYard or Zoom or whatever my guests have. We're going to get back into having a lot more guests and maybe some less solo stuff from me coming up. But anyway, that's for the rest of this week. Again, I want to dive into some of my news notes, observations, biggest takeaways, whatever you want to call them, from after watching the film and the PFF grades from the Bills victory on Sunday over the New England Patriots. And one more time, these aren't necessarily, in fact, not necessarily, they're not in order of significance or importance. They're just general notes that I jotted down. And for me, the first one, let's start with, there's so many big talking points from this game that I understand why it's not a big one this week, but I think, and this is a takeaway from the New England game, but also from at least a handful of games leading up to it as well. I think it might be time for Sean McDermott or Joe Brady, whoever's going to make that call ultimately, to have Latavius Murray take a seat, being healthy and active, and get Leonard Fournette onto this football field and get him active on game day. Latavius Murray over the last couple of weeks just doesn't seem to have it. And, when the Bills signed him during the offseason last year, I kind of figured, and I'm sure a lot of you did as well, that Murray was going to have that 2022 role that Duke Johnson carried for the Bills, where he's your insurance. He's your third, maybe fourth running back on the team. And because you had Singletary, not this year, but last year, you had Singletary and Cook, and then you have Nyheim Hines. And Duke Johnson, I'm sorry, was that fourth guy. Your insurance, the practice squad guy who got called up if you needed him for that game. And I kind of felt when Latavius Murray was signed, because the Bills already had James Cook and they signed Damian Harris via free agency. And when they added Murray, because they had Hines too, of course. And when they signed Murray, I'm like, all right, I could see that being, he's 33 years old. Put him on the practice squad and he could give you some juice, some reps, and do some good things if you need him at some point during the season. That all changed when Nyheim Hines had the jet skiing accident, which put him out for this season. Suddenly, Latavius Murray had a clear path to this roster, made the team, and quite frankly, I thought looked really, really good early on. But then gradually throughout this season, I feel like his play has digressed. A couple games ago, he got away with what should have been a mistake. The referees called it a catch and a fumble on an incredible Josh Allen rollout pass where he tight-roped the sidelines with his foot, hit Murray in stride. Murray took 2 steps, fumbled, and the officials, especially, and after review as well, the catch held up. I, quite frankly, and I'm sure a lot of you did too, thought it was a drop. Anyway, Murray got away with that mistake. This game specifically, he had 2 pretty costly, or what at least could have been costly mistakes during this game. One of them was a third down pass that he dropped, and he was wide open, and it hit him right in the chest, and he just flat out dropped it. This was a third down that became a failed conversion and led to a Sam Martin punt. And then the other play, which, I'm going to put some of this on Joe Brady because I don't think the play should have been called, and we'll talk about Joe in a second here, but it was 3rd and 1, and Josh Allen having success with we'll call it the tush push. I know some people got some other terms for it, but just to keep it simplified here, Josh Allen, the quarterback sneak, the tush push. The Bills did it at least 3 times. It seems like an unstoppable play to the defense if it's the right down and distance. And the Bills ran the ball to Latavius Murray on 3rd and 1. I thought that was just really weird. And of course, he hits a wall and can't power through and doesn't get the first down, which led to another punt. So basically what I'm saying right now is getting to the point where when Latavius Murray's handling the football, bad things are happening more and more. So you combine that with the fact that, and then you look at his grades, 41.0 overall grade for PFF. And I'm going to talk PFF specifically in a few because there's a player that I'm going to get to where I looked and I say, what are you kidding me? What a shitty grade that is. And that's what makes me think at times the PFF grading system, however they do it, is stupid. But in this case, the numbers feel accurate for Latavius Murray. A 41.4 overall grade, which was 2nd worst on the offense. I think Reggie Gilliam might have had the worst, and that was it. 60.0 pass blocking grade, which I feel like at this point right now, his pass blocking is the lone reason why he's still active. But I don't see that as anything special. He played 19 snaps. 6 of them were passing down, so it's not like he was out there pass blocking a ton. And it's not even that I love Leonard Fournette either, by the way. I mean, he had an appearance a couple weeks ago, 5 carries I think he had for 20 yards, nothing special. And I don't think Fournette should be promoted and be the 2nd down back. I'm perfectly good with Ty Johnson being that guy. I've been impressed with Ty Johnson. I like him a lot, actually. I'm just getting to the point now with Latavius Murray that I think he's hurting the offense. And if you're hurting the offense, shouldn't be on the field. He's 33 years old. Maybe he's just hit a wall. I don't know. And it's not that I don't like Latavius Murray. I do. And I understand why he made this team. I understand why they signed him. I understand his role and what it's supposed to be. But bottom line is he's just not doing that role well. So I think it's time to take him out of the lineup. And if I'm Joe Brady or Sean or whoever makes that call, I'm rolling with Leonard Fournette against Miami here in Week 18. So that's one takeaway I had on the offensive side. Another one is Khalil Shakir, I like him, and I feel like watching the film, he could have had a big game. I watched and I saw it during the game, and I'm watching the film, and I don't know who to blame. I don't know if it's the receivers. I don't know if it's the play calls, the schemes, but it just doesn't feel to me like Bills receivers are getting open often at all. But Khalil Shakir, I watched a few times where he was definitely open, and Josh just didn't see him. One of them was a replay during the game. They showed on the broadcast. It was a rub play where Gabe Davis rubbed the guy, and Khalil Shakir broke off, and it should have been an easy look, pass, and catch from Josh Allen for a touchdown. But Josh never even saw him on the play, so didn't work. I think the Bills kicked a field goal afterwards because that was a third down play. So there was another time where he was open downfield. And again, Josh, just for whatever reason on that play, didn't see him, which was frustrating because it was a play where Josh Allen wasn't pressured either. It wasn't like he was forced to make a quick throw or make a play on the run. Just flat out didn't see him. Shakir had 4 targets for the game, caught all 4 passes for 29 yards. Like I said, and I just feel like there were opportunities there. I feel like down the stretch here, if the Bills offense is going to have success, Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid, who it did have a good role, had a 51-yard catch in the Patriots game, but these guys are really going to have to step up. And maybe it's not them having to step up. Maybe it's Josh having to step up to find them more often, or Joe Brady coming up with some creative play calls to get these guys more opportunities, because Gabe Davis, who didn't play a bad game, by the way, on Sunday, only 2 catches. One of them was a really big catch, so on third down on a ball from Josh that was behind him. And Gabe Davis had a really high run blocking great. I get why he's getting all the snaps. And I think this is a player where, and I'm talking about Gabe here, where the team likes him a lot more than the fans do, if that makes any sense. But anyway, once a month, we've seen it. We saw it against the Chargers. We saw it against the Eagles. Every handful of weeks, Gabe Davis is going to give you 3 to 4 catches for 110, 120 yards. But when he's not doing that, Gabe Davis is going to get you between 0 to 2 catches, probably for under 20 yards. And I don't know what's going on with Stefon Diggs right now. Hopefully he gets ramped up this week. I mean, if you're ever going to do it with Stefon and get him ramped back up and going, it's going to be this coming week. But Stefon Diggs has went through a stretch statistically anyway that's been lousy. And Stefon Diggs is not playing as many snaps as it feels like he should be. He missed a lot of snaps in the second half of this game. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with him, but regardless of what's going on with Stefon, Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid are those 2 guys that you got to find a way in this offense to really make sure that they're a central part of a passing game. I liked what I saw in the film from Khalil Shakir. Couple nice catches. Like I said, and again, another Josh Allen, at least one of the catches was a throw that was behind him. And I just felt like watching the film that this could have easily been a game where Khalil Shakir has 6 or 7 catches for 70, 75 yards and a touchdown. But it didn't happen on this day. I mentioned Joe Brady. Before I take a quick break here, let's just hit up on him real quick. There were some calls from Joe Brady that I didn't like. This is not me piling on him or anything like that, but, the guy's been, I think, kind of up and down, just like this whole offense has been up and down since he took over as OC for Ken Dorsey. But I already talked about the 3rd and 1 play to Murray. Again, I'm sitting here kind of putting Latavius Murray on blast a little bit. I don't think he should have been put in that situation. It's 3rd and 1, and you've run Josh Allen. You've snuck him multiple times. You had 2 touchdowns, I think, at that point already. And you run Latavius Murray. I hate that shit. The Bills are up 27-14 at that time. And it just felt like Joe Brady just got a little bit on cruise control. And then, and this isn't necessarily a Joe Brady thing. You say the thing about Joe Brady, say the same thing about Ken Dorsey. You can say probably the same thing about any offensive coordinator who has ever been a coordinator in the NFL. It's infuriating and frustrating, but at times it's like they outthink themselves. They want to get too cute. You don't want to say, oh, Joe Brady just called another quarterback sneak. It's it's like they got to get creative. They got to do something else to show you, hey, I'm smarter than this. I could do more than just quarterback sneak Josh Allen on every short yardage situation. I hate that. It was a stupid, stupid play call. Which, by the way, if Josh picks up the first, or if Latavius in this case, because they hand the ball to him, they pick up a first. They go on to score again. They're already up 27-14. This game gets out of hand, and there's no stress at the end of the game, which we ended up feeling, of course. Hated that play call. I thought it was really stupid. And then there was another play call that really bothered me. It was the second last drive. So that was Latavius Murray. I can't remember what drive that was, but I know it was near the end. But on the Bills' second last drive for sure, first down, they run Ty Johnson, and he gets 5 yards. Now it's 2nd and 5. And again, another score, and you're definitely putting this game away. All right. And I talked about Shakir and Kincaid. Ty Johnson has a 5-yard run on first down. You got James Cook. You got Josh Allen, who you could design a run for. You could roll him out. You have Stephon Diggs, who, by the way, has got 100 catches still for the season, even with the struggles. And what play call gets dialed up? A 2nd and 5 inside slant to Trent Sherfield. I'm like, what? What are we doing here? Under 7.5 minutes left in the game, 2nd and 5. You're on the move, and you're dialing up slant inside passes to Trent Sherfield, which, by the way, that inside slant is not a high percentage play in that situation, I think, to begin with. And secondly, of all the options, you're dialing it up to Trent Sherfield. Hated that call, too, from Joe Brady. And by the way, of course, I'm assuming that Brady makes the call and that Josh Allen then audible out. It is possible that Josh Allen audibled out. Was it a big? I don't think the Bills ran the ball enough, especially once they got up, just 20-7. Your defense is just playing lights out. And it felt like they were determined for this to be the game to get the Bills passing game up and running well. And it was kind of obvious that that was not going to happen. This was just one of those days where Josh Allen didn't have it. I'm not going to talk about Josh specifically here today because you already know it. I'm not going to tell you anything that you don't already know. Josh Allen did not have a good day. But anyway, I felt like, which is funny because Joe Brady has shown a strong commitment to the running game, but 21 carries between James Cook and Ty Johnson. I felt like that could have been more. 14 between the two until the last 2 drives. So again, they spent a big chunk of this game trying to get that passing game going. Just feels to me like between Cook and Johnson, they should have had at least maybe like 9 to 12 more run calls. I talked about Stephon Diggs. I don't think Joe Brady's doing a good enough job of scheming him open. I know they ran one run option play, RPO play, where he actually got a handoff and picked up a first down too, ran for 3 yards. It was a nice play actually by Diggs. But yeah, I don't like that. And then the last call of the game for the Bills, the last offensive non-kneel down play of the game. And again, I want to be careful here because I might be placing too much blame on Joe Brady, and this could be more Josh Allen's fault, this play specifically. But the RPO at the on the 3rd down conversion at the end of the game, where Josh Allen doesn't hand it off to James Cook and runs it himself, gets the first down, which iced the game, but in the process takes a huge shot to his shoulder, the first stinger, according to him, that he's ever had in his career, and still some little bit of neck soreness early on in this week. Hated that. I know you don't want to have to potentially settle for the field goal and go through the stress of Tyler Bass. I mean, it can be a bad snap. It can be a bad hold. Tyler Bass could just flat out shake the ball. And if he misses it, now New England's going to have the ball with the last minute opportunity to win a game. So I know you want to get the first down, so you take all that shit out of play. I completely get that. But I really wish they would have came up with something different other than Josh Allen exposing himself like that to get the hit. And look, you could say before the snap, don't take this hit. Josh is a competitor, man. He sees that first down, he's going to get it. So sometimes he can be his own worst enemy. And in this case, I think he was. I don't know if it's, Joe Brady saying, this is the call. I don't know if it's Josh saying, I'm not handing the ball off to Cook. I am taking this myself. Whatever it was, hated that a lot. So one other thing too, I'm going to squeeze this in right before the break too. Stick with the offense here. Going to be real quick about this. I thought the offensive guards had a pretty rough game. Watching that on film, the interior, the Patriots pass rush in the interior was just killing the Bills interior, especially in the first half. I looked at the PFF grades, pass blocking grades. Connor McGovern's 63.9. That's below his standard. And Osiris Torrance, just a 41.2 pass block rate. Was better run blocking, to be fair to him, but just a bad game for the interior, at least the guards anyway, pass blocking wise, with the Buffalo Bills. I thought the grades matched up with the film. Of course, worrisome when you're playing a Miami team that's really strong on the inside with Christian Wilkins and Zach Zeiler on deck. But anyway, that's the offensive side. Quick break, and then we're just going to fly through a couple things here with the defense, talk about Miami, then get you out of here. Be right back. All right, I'm back here with my weekly Wednesday live where I tell you this is only going to be a half-hour episode, and then it ends up being significantly more. We'll see if I can cut down, though, here, coming off the break and getting you out of here with my biggest takeaways after watching the film, some PFF grades from the Bills' 27-21 victory over the New England Patriots this Sunday. Everything on the line for the Bills, game 272 on Sunday night against Miami. Defensively in this game, the one thing I wanted to point out, because I didn't really hear a lot of people talking about him, and he didn't have any splash plays. He didn't get a sack, but I thought personally Greg Rousseau was awesome. He played about as good as you could play, pass rushing wise, especially without actually registering a sack. He only had one tackle for the game, but he had 5 quarterback per PFF, 5 quarterback hurries, and a quarterback hit. He had an 89.1 PFF pass rushing grade, by far the highest of anybody on the team. I just thought he was outstanding. He was in the backfield almost every single play, getting pressure on Bailey Zappi. I thought he did some great things. I think, Leonard Floyd gets a lot of sacks. AJ Epinesa makes a lot of splash plays. But for me, Greg Rousseau is by far the most consistently good player among the Bills defensive ends. And I thought that was on full display. Did miss a couple tackles. Did have a couple opportunities for a couple tackles, but none of them that were missed were like ones that really hurt the team. But yeah, man, I really, really liked watching that game back and seeing Greg Rousseau play. I thought he was fantastic. And if you're wondering about the defensive end snaps, because of course, Von Miller was a healthy and active for this game. So if you're wondering how Buffalo distributed the reps at defensive end, Greg Rousseau led the team with 32 snaps. Leonard Floyd had 23. AJ Epinesa in his first game back after missing a few games with the ribs, he had 22. Shaq Lawson and Kingsley Jonathan, the two guys who benefit most, I think, by Von Miller not being active. Shaq Lawson had 19 and Kingsley Jonathan had 12. Didn't have a good PFF grade, but had a couple good moments, including a nice stop right at the line of scrimmage. Might have actually lost a yard. One of those points, I said this with Tone Pucks on the show yesterday. Got up off my couch, pointed at the TV, started screaming, "That's why he's playing and not Von Miller." And I might have said that with a little more colorful language than I'm saying on this podcast today. But yeah, as for Vaughn, a lot of people, it's a mixed bag right now. There's a school of thought right now that him being a healthy and active is just a kick in the ass to him, saying, listen, we're watching the film and you're not giving it enough. Forget about doing enough. You're not giving enough out there. And if that's how it's going to be, you're not going to play. So there's some people who think that, and between that and all the money he's making, what his contract looks like, that's going to be very difficult to get out of next year, assuming that there's no league suspension where he loses his guaranteed money. But anyway, my point is there's a lot of people out there who consider this a 1 week kick in the ass that you better crank it up if you're going to be on this football field. And then there's the other school of thought, which includes me for what it's worth, where I think Von Miller's just washed. For this year anyway, I think Von Miller's done. Like, barring injuries, because injuries could get him back on the field. But if this unit stays healthy, my personal opinion as things stand right now is you have seen the last of Von Miller in a Bills uniform playing a football game, at least for this season. I think it's just not there. I think he's either scared to, which, in fairness, I can understand that, but he's either scared to or he's just not willing to put it all on the line, so to speak, to go out there and show that explosiveness, that bend that can impact the game, because it could come, planting the knee and bending, all this shit could come at the expense of him re-injuring himself. And I'm thinking this is his level of play right now, his level of effort on somebody's snaps, because you cannot say, I don't even think Von Miller, if he's going to be truthful to himself, could sit there in front of a camera or in a locker room stall by himself and look himself in the mirror and say, I am doing everything I can out there. I am going 100%. It does not take no damn film guru or expert to watch Von Miller play and say, this dude has been fucking straight up dogging it at times, because he has. No question about it. Anyway, is it a kick in the ass to Vaughn, or is this just Von Miller's done for 2024? We'll see. We'll see, because if he's not playing against Miami, a game where everything's on the line, if he's not playing this Sunday, you ain't seeing him again for this season if the Bills even make the playoffs. And who knows, you might not see him again in a Bills uniform ever after that. But anyway, back to the original point. I thought Greg Rousseau was great. Russell Douglas, I'm not really going to talk much about him. Kind of like Josh Allen on the offensive side. I ain't going to tell you nothing you don't already know. Dude is just, you saw what I saw. You saw it. And we had a good conversation on yesterday's show with Tone Pucks, where I posed the question. It fucking sucks what happened to Trey White. Trey White was playing good football. So on the football side, it sucks. And on the human side, it sucked even more. Guy worked so hard to get, all the way back from his ACL, where he's playing back at a high level again. And then he tears his Achilles. That shit sucks, man. But if he don't get hurt, Brandon Beane is very, very, very unlikely to trade, because you got Benford, you got Dane Jackson, and you got a healthy Trey White. He ain't switch flopping a third and a fifth for Russell Douglas. That trade doesn't happen if Trey doesn't get hurt. So as rotten as the injury was, as painful as it was to the player and the person, in a way, it might have been a small blessing in disguise from a football standpoint only, folks, of course. But Russell Douglas has just been out of this world ridiculous. And look, the way he plays football, he might get beat. He might get burned. He might have a bad game coming down the chute here, because he's an aggressive player and he takes chances. And I love it, though. I love it. Love that type of player. Russell Douglas, freaking huge. And again, I really don't have much more to say about that. You watch the game. There's nothing on film or PFF grades wise that's going to uncover some stone that you might not have thought of. Anyway, but speaking of PFF, just a couple more points here as we wind down. I said that I thought the grades matched up in some cases, and in some cases they don't. Jordan Poyer's game to me is a reason why I'll never understand PFF grading. And maybe I should go as far to call it stupid, because you can't sit here and you can't say, well, PFF is stupid because a guy gets shitty grades and you thought he played a good game. Just like inversely, I might think somebody played a great game and you didn't, and then the PFF grades confirm it, or vice versa. The guy sucked. PFF grades confirm that he sucked. I thought Osiris Torrance was lousy in pass blocking. PFF confirmed that with their grade. So you get what I'm saying. But anyway, Jordan Poyer is just the reason why I just will never understand the science and the data, the formula for going into these PFF grades. I thought Jordan Poyer played a really good game on Sunday. I thought he played a strong game, and he was especially good in run support. And then I went and I look at the stats. He was only charged with giving up 2 catches, 3 targets, 2 catches, 18 yards. One of them a first down. That's it for the game. And then you look at the grades, and I'm like, he only had a 46.0 overall grade from PFF, 50.5 coverage, which again, I don't understand, and 59.3 run grade, which I even understand less. Because I thought he was outstanding against the run, man. He was getting up to the line. He was getting in the box. He was making plays right at the line of scrimmage. I thought Jordan Poyer was a huge asset to this defense. And when you look at the PFF grades, it looks like he was a liability. Just complete weird shit for me. I talked yesterday with Tone off camera. We didn't talk about it on the air during the show. But Jordan Poyer being back, I think there's a lot of people out there that early in the season would have said, even though he's under contract for next year, that we're probably seeing the last of Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, the safeties. Micah Hyde is going to be a free agent. Jordan Poyer is still under contract for next year, but a pretty relatively easy out for Brandon Beane should he decide to move on from Jordan Poyer. Early in the season, I might have, in fact, I did to some extent, at least, I'm not going to lie, think that Jordan Poyer, I'm not going to use the word washed up because I never thought he was washed up, but he definitely did not look like the Jordan Poyer that we've seen in years past with Buffalo. But I'll tell you what, man, I think, especially over the second half of the season, I think Jordan Poyer has been outstanding. And I no longer think that it's any sort of foregone conclusion at all that the Bills are going to try to cut him during the offseason to save some cap money because he's got a $7.5 million cap hit for next year. And if the Bills cut him, they'll lose like 2.5 a dead, but they'll save $5 million against the cap. I think at this point, if he's playing next year like he's playing right now, to me, at the end of this season, I think that'd be stupid for Brandon Beane to cut him. You don't want to lose both your safeties if you don't have to. So I like the way Jordan Poyer played this game. I thought he looked really good on film. I liked him in real time. And I was pretty disappointed to go look at the PFF grades and dive into them and see that they gave him a lousy grade. So I don't agree with that at all. Two other things, special teams related. And I'm not going to even talk, it's not the touchdown, the first play of the game, which sucked. But that's kind of on par for the Bills' special teams this year. I mean, they've just been fucking lousy all season long. So I don't even know why that surprised me that maybe because it was the very first play of the game, you're not even have a chance to settle in the game. It was annoying. It sucked. But this unit has sucked pretty much all season. I think when this season's over, there's going to be some serious conversations about the coaching and the commitment to spending as much money as they do on certain players personnel-wise. It just don't seem to be worth it. But anyway, that's another conversation for another time. Two things specifically that I want to talk about. Number one, I was a little surprised to see Deontay Hardy even active. I said early in the week, last week, that I thought the Bills would be at a point where they're just going to call up Andy Isabella for the last couple games and have him, even if he does nothing else but return kicks and punts, just because they probably would trust him more than Deontay Hardy at this point. I mean, Deontay Hardy, that fumble against the Chargers could have cost him the game. This guy's been, for the most part, and I've seen him on Twitter lately. We all have. He's been pretty surly and frustrated because I'm sure he's seeing a lot of the tweets and hearing a lot of the chatter. Get him out of the lineup. He's hurting this team. He's not doing shit. To some extent, though, man, that's what it is. I mean, this guy was a pretty early, high priority free agent signing by Brandon Beane, and it just has not worked out. Has not worked out. So after the Chargers game, when he fumbled again, I'm like, I think this dude's done. But it wasn't. And 2 punt returns for 18 yards. He had an 11-yard one, which was a nice one. So it's good to see him out there. I'm glad I was wrong because Deontay Hardy at least has the potential to bust one. And we haven't even come close to seeing that this year. But it may be coming. It may be coming. Maybe it'll come at Hard Rock Stadium on Sunday night. Maybe that'll be the game where Deontay Hardy finally busts one. But he had a nice 11-yard return. Obviously, the biggest thing is he didn't fumble. Only played 3 offensive snaps. He's just not a factor on the offense. And thinking that he might have been Isaiah McKenzie was just the wrong thought process. It's just not going to happen, and it's not going to happen at this point, which I really don't give a shit about at this point. All I care about is don't fumble the ball. Don't fumble the ball on special teams, and I guess you'll be out there. But I was wrong. I thought he'd be out, and he wasn't. And then the last thing, I got to make sure that I give some flowers to the way of don't talk about punters. I'm not sure I've mentioned Sam Martin on this podcast this season, but going to give your boy some flowers because he deserves the love this week. He was freaking fantastic. If you made a list of the top 5 MVPs from that specific Bills game against New England, obviously Rasul Douglas would be there. Obviously Ed Oliver would be there. Didn't even talk about Ed today, but you know what Ed did. He'd be on the list for sure. Sam Martin's in the top 5. He might even be the top 3 or 4, man. He was phenomenal. 6 punts. All those 6 punts went inside the 20. A couple of them were definitely inside the 7-yard line. He had a 47.8 net average on those punts. So when the Bills, as frustrating as it was when the offense was stalled, couldn't convert on third down and were forced to punt, as bad as that was, Sam Martin just flipped the field brilliantly. Big game for Sam Martin. So I wanted to make sure he got some love here. And on that note, again, it's going to do it for today. It's all about Miami at this point. All about Miami. The Bills will know. And I'm laughing in my head because I can't get out of my head as much as I want to. I can't fathom the possibility that the Bills could be the number 2 seed or the Bills could be out of the playoffs. And it's not just possible, it's extremely realistic because the Ravens are playing the Steelers on Saturday. And I'm telling you now, Lamar, I don't know if it's official. When you hear this, it may or may not be official. Lamar ain't playing. Most of those starters ain't playing. I think Pittsburgh's like a 4.5 point favorite right now on the road. That's not to say that the Baltimore wants to lose the game. You know, I know there's some theories. Tone talked about on the show yesterday where John Harbaugh, might lose this game to help ensure that the Bills will make the playoffs. First of all, you're not insured shit because the Bills could beat Miami and be the number 2 seed. And there's nothing you can do about that. I think they want to beat the Steelers. If they can knock the Steelers out of the playoffs, they're going to try to do that. They're just not going to risk any of their best players to do that. But that doesn't mean that Baltimore is incapable of beating Pittsburgh starters. But anyway, that game's Saturday at 4:30. So you're going to know by dinner time, late dinner if you're having one, I guess, on Saturday, if the Bills, where they stand. And if Pittsburgh wins that game, then it's all about hoping that the Tennessee Titans can get their shit together and finish on a high note. Maybe Will Levis starts and he has a really good season finale to build off going into the offseason. And they beat a struggling and pretty, of late anyway, shitty Jacksonville team. But Jacksonville's favored to win that game. So if Jacksonville wins and Pittsburgh wins, it's literally winning your 2, losing your out for the Buffalo Bills. So it keeps popping in my mind, even though I don't want it to. But that's the reality. It's hard to believe. And by the way, if one of those 2 teams end up losing and the Bills lose, the Bills would be the 7 seed and they'd be going right back to Miami again the following week. If both those teams lose, and both meaning, of course, Jacksonville and Pittsburgh, then the Bills would be 6 and they'd be going to Kansas City. But anyway, we'll talk about that. Plenty more with my buddy Anthony Marino from Buffalo Rumblings. We're doing that tomorrow again. One more time. Thank you all for watching, for listening, and we will be back. Brand new episode tomorrow. Talk to you then.